So when we look at inventory, let me just make this bigger. If I look at inventory, your most, the questions they always ask you is, first of all, they ask you to calculate the closing balance, the value, the rand value. Then they ask you to calculate cost of sales. Sometimes they don't ask you to calculate cost of sales. They immediately ask you to calculate the markup. If it's markup, remember, it's your gross profit on cost of sales times 100. In other words, you have to do cost of sales. Okay. Then they will ask you the stuff that's missing. And when stuff is missing, you work with units. So you say the opening plus the purchases less the returns gives me my closing, less the closing they gave me, and that difference would be what's missing. Okay? Ratios they like to ask is stock on hand, right? And the stock on hand, again, you use the units, don't use the rands. It's less figures and it's less likely to make mistakes if you use the units. And always remember to go look if they say average stock on hand or average available stock, or if they say final stock on hand. Because 9 out of 10 times with inventory, they only want you to use the closing stock, not the average. Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing, what was that? I don't want to forget anything. Okay, I'll come back if I remember. So just make sure that you use the final stock on hand. 9 out of, just read, okay? And you use the units, not the rands. Now, if I go look at my periodic system, do you remember basically your ratio, oh, can you see we must not take breaks because then my brain breaks down. The formula that you always have to keep in mind is you must have your opening, your purchases, your returns. Then what influence your purchase price? Oh, customs, carriage. That all makes the price of the purchase more. Okay, so if I have this, I have the price of the stock that's available to sell. Okay, so in other words, if I do my methods to calculate cost of sales, I would then just go and subtract my closing stock. That gives me cost of sales. But usually, number one, they ask me to calculate the closing stock by either using SIM, weighted average, or thank you. So, with all three of them, you always need to take into account with the units. So let's quickly think. The units would be the opening unit, the purchase units, and the return units. But the moment they talk the rand value, you need to take the customs and carriage into account as well. Okay, but they do not influence the units. Okay, so you have to say, am I working with the units now or am I working with the rand? If it's the units, it's opening, purchase, less returns. If it's the rand, it's opening, purchase, less returns, add carriage, add customs. Because that makes the price of the purchase more. Okay, I'm repeating myself. So, now let's quickly go look at that. Is this the papers we were busy with now? Let me just. Okay, let me just quickly explain that again to you. If my, say per unit, per unit, please stop talking. Per unit, my purchase price is 10. My carriage is 1. My customs is 1. So the price of this thing is 12 Rand a unit. But it's still just 1 unit. Can you see the difference? So those two just loads to the price. That's all it does. So if they tell you I purchased 10 units, I purchased 10. Even though the price can still increase because there was customs and carriage. And the other thing, this is what I wanted to say. If they tell you you sold, your sales was 700 units, then it means your cost of sales is also 700 units. Because you must calculate the cost of sales on the units that you sold. So if they don't give you cost of sales units, and I'm now referring specifically to if you have to calculate stock on hand, né? Then it's more on hand is on top. It's your closing stock over cost of sales. Ne? So that closing stock would be the units that they tell you. You have 7 units left. The cost of sales would be the units of your sales. Okay. So, if I look at the question of paper 2 in the prelim, they say to me here, they want us to use FIFO. Okay? So can you see? Now they ask me, value of closing stock. Stock holding period in days using closing stock. If I go look at my information, what information do they give me? Now remember what I told you. I said you always look opening, purchases, returns, customs, carriage. Now if I look here, can you see? Opening, purchases, returns. In this case, they didn't give me any information about customs or carriage. Ne? They can give me that information as an extra column here, or they can give me that information as an extra little sentence here at the bottom. Okay, so now how will I do this? When it's FIFO, so the first thing I want to know, how much stock do I have on hand? 2,900. So now I need to be able to give a money value to that 2,900 items. So what I do is I'm going to give it the money value of the most recent purchase, né? Because that makes it more reliable. Ne? Okay, but I cannot give it a value more than what it is. Okay, so now if I look here, they say in February I returned 360. So in other words, I do not have 2160. I have 2160 less 360. So for February I only have how many units? 1,800 units. Okay, that 1,800 units had a unit price of 150, which gives me 2. Now, can you see if there was carriage or customs, I would have to go and add it here to the 270. Because the price of what I buy is constituted, let me just push that up a bit, is constituted by the original purchase price, the basis, that for my basis, the carriage and the customs. Okay, so but this case there's nothing. Now I see, okay, I have valued 1,800 units of that 29. So I still need to value 1,001. Everybody fine with that? Yes. So I still need to value 1,100 units, but now I can't value it at the February price anymore. I have to value it at the purchase, the batch that I bought before February, which was November. And I see, oh, I've got enough, 50/50. I only need to value 1,001, and I'm going to value it at 210. And that gives me what? 231. Like that. So now I add it, and that's my closing balance. Okay.
That's the stock on hand.
Yeah.
the real stock before the returns. I don't have to do the returns first.
Okay, yeah. Because I can use this 1-1 because there was no returns in November. And if you think about it, your return policy is usually no longer than 30 days. Okay? So usually it is, but they will tell you, oh, we returned it from June or we returned it from September. And if they don't tell that to you, you will be able to see, they will tell you here the unit price. Then you'll be able to see if it's 150, oh, it was from February. You had a question? Mm. I will add it to the purchase price. So in other words, let's say they say carriage was, they can give it one of two ways. Let's say we put in carriage here. We say carriage is 10 Rand per unit. Ne? Then I would say 1.8 times 10. So I would add 18,000 here. And I would add, what is this? 11,000 here. Does that make sense? Or they will say, they will have an extra column here. And they will say the carriage on purchases for February was whatever, let's say 10,000. Now I need to go calculate per unit. Ne? So then I will say, okay, I am using 1,800 units, ne? Out of 1,800 units, so it's still 10,000. But like here, I would say times 1,100 units over 50 units. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Because you only want to take into account the carriage that you use there for the products that you are valuing, not the total, because some of it you already sold. So it's taken into cost of sales. Is your question answered? Okay, next one. So the next one, they want me to calculate the stock on hand. So your stock on hand, I want to use the units. So how many units are on hand? 2009. How many units is sold? 14. You see? And I'm not timesing with 100, I'm timesing with 365. And the answer will be in days. Okay. And then they're going to most probably ask me, should they be happy with the stock on hand? Should they not be happy? Blah, blah, blah. So let's just quickly see what they are asking. They're saying, Jonas, can you see that you're in the paper? Jonas suspects that stocks are being stolen. Okay, are you guys fine with how to do the stolen stuff? Yes. No, let's do that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to work. As soon as we do stolen stuff, I work with units. So, if I do units, I don't take carriage and customs into play. Okay, so I'm going to say I had 1,290. I bought 16,010. I returned 360. I sold 14. How much is my closing stock? 294. 294. 40. Okay. Now I go look. How much do they tell me I have left? 29. So how many was stolen? 40. So 40 is missing. Okay. Now they're going to ask me something internal control most probably. Yeah, take it. Okay, so they say, what can Jonas do to improve the internal control of stock? Get a security guard. Division of duties. Remember, in one year they asked, give 3 examples of division of duties. Now, so you just split everybody. No person does something that follows. So let's quickly think. person receiving must not be the same person ordering. Ne? People doing stock take must not be the people that work with the stock every day. People who the stock manager must not be the bookkeeper. Can you see? You just split it. Then you'll be fine. In February, while this buyer was on leave, Jonas decided to buy stock himself. Jonas saw cheaper socks and bought them. Explain with evidence why this was not a good idea. Are they asking about him doing the work of the guy on holiday? No. They're asking specifically about the cheaper socks. So, can you see when was this? February. When was the returns? February. And there's your reason. Investigation revealed that Jonas' brother, the driver at the store, bought 180 socks at staff price. Is there something unethical about that? No, nothing wrong with that. But then he sold it to a marathon team at a higher price. Now, that in itself is not a problem. The problem comes here. It's against the company's policy of employees selling their products. Because why? Now he's becoming competition. So he becomes my competition with my own products. You see? So, and that can also, when we allow people to buy stock at cost or at a lower price, and we allow them to go sell it outside, not only do they become competition, I'm opening up the problems of them starting to steal stock. Okay. So what should Jonas say to his brother when dealing with this matter? Like in the words of Tin Swallow with the previous exam, stop it. I'm going to tell mom. No, you can't say that. What you're going to say is, brother, let's sit and talk. So let's address. You are now acting against the company policy, which means that you are opening up yourself to a disciplinary hearing. You are going to, in this disciplinary hearing, you could lose your job because I can't protect you because I'm your brother. You're putting me in a very bad position here. I can't protect you because that will be seen as nepotism. So I can't do that. So you can lose your job or you can pay back the money that you made and promise never to do this, because this can become a very big situation if we don't handle it right. Okay. I think we've sorted Jonas.
Why are you putting it in terms of like family?
Because it's his brother.
The way you answered it.
Yeah, it's his brother.
So my mother was like one of them.
Okay, so Penguin is asking, what if it's not his brother but one of the employees? You'll do the same. You will say to him, sir, what you are doing is against the company policy. So, we are going to give you a disciplinary hearing, and that outcome may lead to you being suspended for a while. It can even lead, if this isn't your first time being caught doing something unethical, you can be fired. We can see this as unethical, whatever, same things. It's just you're not going to use the word nepotism. Okay, now, your question was on all the methods. So now, let's use this one and do weighted average. Okay? So let's do weighted average, and the difference is only this. I draw the longest line ever. I say the top is rand, the bottom is unit. Why? Because I want to get an average price. And that average price I want to times with the closing stock. That's what I want to do. Can you see the difference? With FIFO, I use specific prices. With weighted average, I get Okay, so can you see with this weighted average method you'll use for your cheaper items that the prices aren't differing a lot, you know? You'll use that. Like, we can't say prick glue sticks anymore because they are just as expensive as a house. So we'll use like big pens. Ne? Your big pens you'll do weighted average. So what are we going to do? It's still going to be opening. So what's the opening? The units is 1290. The total is 206. Purchases is 1610. The units is 1610. The total is 3040500. The returns is 360. And they tell me the returns, how much was it? It was at 150. So that gives me what? Okay, now, can you see your units is done? But if there was carriage and if there were customs, I would still add it because it's making the price of the product more. Okay, now I'm not going to do the sum with you, but I will get an answer, and that answer times the closing will give me my closing stock. Yes.
What is the answer you get?
The answer I get here will be the average price per unit. Yeah. So on average the price was, and if I look at these unit costs, it would be lower than 200, definitely, and higher than 150. It would lie between 150 and 200. Can you see how you can test yourself also? Because it would be within this spec. Okay, sorted. Okay, let's quickly see. If I look at the next one, this one is sim. Ne? No, this isn't sim. This is decisions. If they gave me sim would look something like this. They would say, okay, this is my purchases or my stock. They will have an opening for X, one at blah blah price. Then they would have purchases for one. I don't know how to write this. Basically, let's say I have pink highlighters, ne? And I have green highlighters. I'm only going to do 2. So now I say to you, okay, opening stock, pink was 1 at 15 rand. Green was 2 at 10 rand. Then they give you purchases, pink and green. Pink was 10 at 15 rand. It will stay the same. 150. Green was also 10 at 10 rand, giving 100. Then they'll say, if they say returns, then you just do returns. If they say carriage, you add the carriage to the price. Okay. Then they will give you sales, and sales they'll say pink and green. So they will say, oh, genade, nobody can see nothing. So they will say, pink we sold 8 at 20 rand. Green we sold 9 at also 20 rand. Let's make life easy. Can you see this is different than this? Okay, because this is done at the cost price and you want to use the cost price. So now I'm going to say pink. I had 1, I bought 10, I sold 8, so I have left 3 at 15 rand. Green, I will say I had 2, I bought 10, I sold 9, so that's also 3 at 10 rand. So my closing stock is 75.
Okay.
Okay. Also, then just remember, if they say here your carriage was so much, it will make this price more. Okay. So, and if there was returns, you just subtract it. Can I actually say with this one can appear anywhere. They also like to ask it this way with fixed assets. So a very difficult one was that one with the helicopters last year's June. Go look at that one. So when I look at stock for, however, when I look at stock, what am I looking for? First thing, I want to see, is anything stolen? Is there units stolen? If they give me sales, if they give me the sales, is there money stolen? In other words, then you compare what was deposited and what was supposed to be deposited. And then that would be cash that's stolen. Another thing that you look for is you look for your returns. Okay, so you're being recorded now on YouTube, yeah? So there's returns. You go look, how much do people return? Next thing you're going to look at is you can look at closing stock. Do I have a lot of stock on hand? Don't I have any stock on hand? That might be a problem. Then also you can go look at working hours. Do people work the full time? Their budget on marketing, anything like this. So now with that in mind, let's quickly go look at these three. If I look, first of all, can you see their opening stock is way different? Okay? Now this is laptops. So what's the first thing that we know about laptops? It's an electronic device. Now the moment we have an electronic device, that thing has got software. And we all know, how often do you update software? Quite often. Okay? So these laptops can't be in the store for too long without the software being upgraded. But never mind the software, the hardware improves very quickly. With a laptop, the newer laptops would have more memory space, would have better, would have 5G, not 4G Wi-Fi, would have, you see? So you can't keep them too long because they go not just out of fashion, but there's just so much better technology. And actually, it becomes cheaper with time. So now, firstly, I see this one, a lot, It's like the bears, you know the three little bears. It's always, the one is too little, the one is too much, and the one is just right. Units purchased. Okay, now can I see that this is obviously the shop where things are happening because they buy the most. And this is the shop, maybe this is the shop in the small little mall. Okay, now let's look at units sold. So firstly, let's try the stolen one. 120 plus 860 less 885 gives me what? 95. So immediately there you got your stock that's stolen. So now what you do when you quote this, and this is very important because it's easy marks, you say, what's the problem? Laptops stolen, 25. That's all I want to see. I want to see the reason and I want to see the number. And then they want to know how you're going to fix the problem. Get security guards. Don't. Division of duties. Because remember, the moment you say division of duties, you have to explain it. So now it becomes this long sentence. Okay? So before you go in, when stuff gets stolen, what is going to be your response? And you can use that response in every sector. Okay. up my security by getting, that won't work. You can't just say up your security. How? Get security guards at night. There you go. Okay, now let's go. So I've done stock stolen. You cannot do stock stolen again. So now let's go look. Let's go look. Ooh, the sales price. This one's sales price is very high. Ne? So you can say, and if you look, can you see that your units increased a lot, ne? The beginning of the year it was only 250, now it's 600. So your stock is not selling, ne? So I will say my problem here is there's too much stock on hand. 600 units, ne? I will not say, oh, there's more stock. You can say there's more stock on hand than there was at the start of the year, stuff like that. Then, what are you going to do for a reason? Make the sales price less. Ne? Offer discounts. Okay, so now I've already done too much stock on hand. Can't do that again. I need to find something else. Now this guy's price is in between, it's good. Right? He's got a lot of opening stock, but look, his closing stock is little, which is good. Now, if I look at this, can you see he's making a lot of money? There doesn't look like any problem. So the first thing I'm thinking, okay, definitely the stock isn't the problem. The stock stolen I've already used. So the selling price is not the problem. So the only thing is I'm going to check for cash. So he sold how many units? 2,900 at 6,500. How much does that give me? Okay. Okay, so it's already 18 million something, which is more than what he deposited. So cash is stolen. And what is your solution for cash stolen? Deposit or cash received daily. That's your best solution. Can you see how you go about with this? And the only way, listen to me, the only way you can do this thing quickly is by doing a lot of exercises like this, so that you start being able to see the patterns. Okay.